Hello everyone. Welcome to Pallas Project Studios and congratulations to our Mr. Finn Nichol on Operation Transformation, which is obviously what you can see all around you. Oh! And my name is Magee. I'm an artist, performer and writer based in Dublin, and Finn and I went to college together actually in Limerick School of Art and Design. We studied sculpture and combined media. My practice explores the body, mind in time and space, encompassing chronic illness and queerness and religiosity. And yeah, I'll be sharing the panel with Finn today. Welcome to the trial of the people versus Finn Nichol.
My name is Finn Nichol. I'm the exhibiting artist. I'm a quadruple Pisces. I am, like Day, I have chronic pain. So that's something that really informs a lot of my practice. I have a condition called ankylosing spondylitis, which is a form of arthritis which presents in flare-ups and can over time cause the spine to fuse, which is relevant because it's really informing my practice. That's not just how I introduce myself.
Standard pleasantries.
Yeah. And so I work in drawing, sculpture, songs, installations, and I also went to college with Magee.
And so this is sort of an evolution of a show you had in Catalyst. Was it last year or the year before last year?
Exactly this time last year.
There you go. Well, something I was thinking about, not just about your practice in general, but with this specific show, I was thinking about the writer Elaine Scarry, who basically wrote about how pain actively destroys language. And I was thinking about how I agree and disagree with that statement, because on one hand, pain is, in many senses, indescribable, but it is that sort of indescribability that informs our necessity for making language in the first place. The fact that we can't say something causes us to try and say something. Even if we're reduced to the cry or the moan, we're still communicating. What place would you say language takes place in your practice? Because when I see these, I see something like quite hieroglyphic, which is something sort of halfway between a figure and a letter.
Yeah, I mean, I think language is like that bridge between intention and expression. And when you're working with images as opposed to words, sometimes that relationship can get very complicated. Often I don't really know my intention when I'm making an image, or in this case, 3,000 images. And it sort of comes with time.
And would you say that there's a specific order to the manner they were drawn and then installed? Did you do that?
Not at all.
Excellent.
I just attacked it. Really, what's kind of strange with these drawings is I don't really remember drawing a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a fugue state, which ended up with all of these figures. But I work in animation and doing frame-by-frame animation, which is a very ordered and sequential way of working, and it's a very generative way of working, as in you end up with hundreds, if not thousands, of images, and this was definitely inspired by that. It's a collapsing of time and flattening it out, so you're taking it in all at once.
Excellent. And it's interesting you mentioned that as well, because you obviously sort of opened the show and did another one, and indeed will close the show with performance. And I remember we were talking about how performance very much augments time for the person performing. It's interesting as well because you're being the body in time and space as you perform augments time, removes time. What was it like in comparison to the fugue state of drawing versus the drawing non-live versus the fugue state or otherwise of drawing live before people?
Yeah, when you're performing, it's very For me, I was completely blind. For those who weren't here for the performance, because I have no idea who was here. It was for my whole opening. I was wearing this head where I can't see or hear, and drawing and sticking them up on the wall. So it was almost this kind of blind meditation, and it reduces time to like a second without a sequence, which is kind of what these drawings are in a way, because you're just focusing on doing the one action over and over again. So there was really no sense of something taking a long time or a short time. And I think a lot of my work is still informed by COVID and by my experience of it, which was, for a lot of COVID, I was on immunosuppressants and I was in a really bad flare-up. And whole years just seemed to go. But then weeks took forever, or like days took forever. Everyone was going on about, oh, we'll never forget this. And we have completely kind of internalized it. And I think, like you had your...
my thing.
Your thing. You had, like, not that long after.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you were flaring. Was it 2020 you were flaring, or 2021 you were flaring?
Yeah, kind of. I think it was 21.
That's interesting because I was
20.
also flaring 21. I had like 9 months where I kind of like I have a chronic migraine and fibromyalgia, and it just so happened that our flare-ups kind of like coincided actually, which is interesting to think
our
about.
cycles kind of sync. But
did you feel that? I felt that.
Yeah. But I think like performing, when you're doing something very intense, you kind of don't have time to take stock and to think.
So this is the interesting thing about, like, even say with like chronic pain, is that because it's moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment indefinitely, there is an endurance aspect to it, which I think lends itself to entering like a performance space. It's interesting as well in terms of like the animation, because me and Finn lived together when we were in Limerick, and I remember when you weren't flaring, like I was always so struck by like how animated you are, and just how much that is then embodied then in your work. How do you find that transition then, going from comparative animacy then to stillness?
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. I think part of why I wear big heads and literally mask is because maybe there's a certain amount of masking that you do when you have chronic pain. Yeah. You have to kind of pretend a lot. It's interesting because like a lot of the stigma that surrounds chronic pain is this sense of, particularly with invisible illnesses, is the idea that you're faking it, which is so funny because I find the majority of my experience with chronic pain is faking health. Yeah. So by putting a giant head on, people let you do some really weird stuff. They do. And it's kind of unmasking in a way, right? Like you can, you suddenly you're putting that pain on display instead of hiding it. And you, like, performance creates a really specific context where you can act in very ways that would be considered just mental illness behavior if you didn't say this is a performance first. It is interesting. It's sort of like this socially sanctioned. I mean, like, there's a lot of comparisons with performance, and it's parallels to, say, like ritual. It's where the usual rules, the usual social contract sort of like curves weirdly, almost like a black hole in space-time. It's like where this is where this is allowed to happen. And it's interesting because so much of performance is people looking at you, which is interesting as well from a medical point of view, when you're being, like, in some cases, like, constantly observed from many different specialists, that is. And you're being asked to communicate your experience with language with specialists. And maybe this is a way of because I find it really hard. Again, I'm very time blind, so people go, "Oh, when did you experience this?" And I go, "Yeah, I don't know, at some point." So this is maybe communicating a more emotional or abstract aspect of it.
But you also, in your work, you also, beyond the personal, you also explore the political. Like I know in your video work, as well as in this, beyond the politics, say, chronic illness, but also economic principles. And it's interesting actually to think of the economy as a sort of like an organism. Can you comment on and expand upon, I suppose, parallels you see between illness and, say, economic precarity?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the title of this show and the one in Catalyst was Operation Transformation, which came from this essay I read, which used the 2008 makeover show as like a metaphor for post-colonial shame around economic instability and around the crash and everything. And I was
You've
thinking
literally
about,
depicted the Celtic tiger, I think.
your
Previous video work.
which is part of like, I think of them as a wider series. I'm just trying to not run away with myself with this answer because I started kind of far out. What was the question again?
I was just talking.
So there's this kind of idea in that of almost sympathetic magic, like contestants would fast, they'd be shamed for excess body weight or what's seen as excess. And around this time, language around the economy became really corporeal. There was a sugar tax being debated, which was called the fat tax. Talk of needing to like tighten the belts. People literally were saying we need to tighten the belts, have a lean government, cut spending. So it's this really like bodily way of thinking about society, and this kind of sense that if we can discipline ourselves and control ourselves, we can get control over it. So it's kind of making this this wider post-colonial systemic failure into a very personal context and a personal failure.
It's interesting as well because there's something very paranoid and sort of like surveillant about it, which is obviously just like surveillance culture, like that 100%. We live in. And it's interesting to think about then the parallels between even like performance and say like the medical sphere, which are also literally like surveillance cultures. This sort of auto-panopticon that one has with oneself.
Yeah, and there was all these kind of like around the crash, there was also shows like Benefit Streets, which was like, it was a UK show, and it was essentially shaming people on the dole. And there was loads of articles on TV, which was about people who were taking more than their fair share, essentially. So I think part of my fascination with that era, the Celtic Tiger, is because I've really like personalized and individualized, as everyone does, the whole economic story of the country, because you only have your own experience and your own lived thing, which was childhood, carefree, great. A Celtic Tiger, it's a boom. And then you come into adulthood, everything's pretty hairy, and also now you have chronic pain. And as the economy is collapsing, your body is, and as everything, like the currency is inflating, also your body is, it's your knees are. And I think it's really hard to not, you can intellectually know that it's a systemic failure that you're facing, but emotionally, it feels like a personal failure.
Well, this is interesting because I find that, and you'll inevitably have experienced this as well, the sort of, often I think unconsciously, even sometimes with the best of intentions, people giving you, particularly with invisible illness, people giving you unwarranted medical advice, basically. And also sort of assuming, well, there must have been something that you did to essentially deserve this. There's a sort of unconscious association of health with virtue,
Yeah,
with
100%.
morality, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you internalize that, and then, well, I mean, that's literally religious thinking.
I know. It's basically body fascism, right? And it's also a sort of magical thinking. This idea of input output, having a very 1-to-1 ratio. If I drink a few turmeric lattes, you know.
Yeah.
But it also, there's certain voices have a lot more legitimacy in the medical sphere. Like when I was a teenager, I knew I had arthritis for ages, years. And my GP just kept saying, you're definitely doing a sports injury to yourself. And I was like, I do not play sports. And then like basically every woman I know is really just completely ignored in the medical sphere. So yeah, certain experiences are considered more legitimate.
It's like there is this sort of, it's not quite the same thing, but there's a, well, I suppose maybe you could argue it's a hermeneutics of suspicion, but towards like
I'm always arguing.
But like, just like there's this, unless you fit a certain ilk, basically, symptoms are treated with suspicion. You're young, thereby you're a young strapping lad.
I am a young strapping lad.
Well, I mean, no, you are. And and like there's also just more to it, and it's interesting as well that you're then exposed to their optics or the optics of you being seen by them, and then of course you have this internalized, as we were saying, sort of panoptical relationship with yourself. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, actually, and this is a huge way that like we bonded like early on in our practice, was music, basically, which shows up a little bit sound-wise in this show, in the video piece, but is also like another means, basically, of sequencing time in a comparatively linear progression. How would you say music has impacted your practice in terms of...
Oh yeah, music's way funner than art.
Yeah.
Because people like music, you know. No, I think,
remember you introduced me to like the Beach Boys, and I've never given
greatest
them
band
like
ever.
a second.
No, I think that music is it's really intuitive, and people have a lot more confidence with music. You know, like whenever you go to galleries, I feel like people are often trying to suss out whether they should like something or not, and whether they're allowed to like something, whereas we tend to be quite instinctive and confident in our tastes with music. In terms of my practice, it's really been just something that I haven't really thought of as separate necessarily. Often my music's more for me, and then the visual art is more what I put into the world and share, but that'll often have musical elements as well.
I'm remembering, was it either Wolf Trap Mountain or The Lonely Sea, just previous video works that Finn has done, you composed like whole sets of music for them.
Yeah, I had like multiple songs that didn't get used and stuff.
It's interesting just with music because, as you say, this sort of like immediacy, this intuitiveness is quite similar to one's own perception of pain. As in, pain is one of those things that is so like evolutionarily within us. You just feel it. There's not just the pain itself, it's what it does to you, it's how it travels. I almost sometimes think of like pain as a sort of anti-music.
Okay, interesting.
About that. But would you say, in terms of that, what is your relationship to making art in terms of deadlines and time. Do you experience it as a race against time, or do you experience it playfully?
Oh yeah, no, I think a lot of artists have a pretty poor
Is it poor
sense
though?
of where they are in time, maybe. I feel like deadlines are just constantly imminent, is
Yeah.
my experience of it. A lot of what I was thinking about in this show was productivity, which is something I really struggle with, which I think part of that is I really experience.
Yeah, go on.
I kind of experience time like quicksand, you know. It's like, especially, I guess every passing year is a smaller percentage of your life. Every passing second is a smaller percentage too. So it's just like constantly accelerating.
It's interesting though that acceleration continues, and yet, as you say, there is a textural difference that also persists and sometimes complexifies. It's like, yeah, that was last week, I guess.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing with art as well, is you're kind of carving out spaces which are like not beholden to the same concepts of like economic productivity. It's in some ways an intentional waste of time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, we measure everything with growth and GDP now, which is really insane. It's a crazy way to structure the world. Because we go, this company makes tear gas, and this company makes I don't know, like health devices. But if it's £1 million or euros of each one is worth the same economically.
Well, it's interesting you talk about like waste in terms of, if I think beyond, economic ways of measuring time, if you, I suppose, organify time as something more, bodily, something more organic, and you have this idea of waste, and it's in the waste that actually fecundity can arise. Like, sure, there is waste, but also you have compost. It allows new things to arrive.
Yeah, and it's this idea of efficiency, and growth, which is the governing economic principle of capitalism, really. Each company has like a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders to make more stuff every single year. But it's kind of antithetical to life. Now they're trying to replace organic life with machines, with AI, which is kind of the logical conclusion to that. Maybe the logical conclusion to body fascism is, it is a machine, right? It's the perfectly productive body.
Well, even going back to that way of thinking we were talking about in terms of magical thinking, we have a usual logic of approaching the world, whether one is secular or one is religious or spiritual or otherwise. We have this sort of logic: if I think X and I enact Y, it will equal to Z outcome. It's very formulaic, it's structured, it's towards something. And you thereby have a relationship with whatever can happen, whatever you can make happen. I suppose, where does art fit into that? It is like more roundabout than that.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of like, where does art fit in?
Or does not fit in?
With like the intention to output relation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess that's what being process-led is, isn't it? It's kind of like intentionally losing sight of the output, strapping yourself in, and then arriving there and looking around and going, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Going like, I think I went a bit too far with the drawing.
It's interesting you say losing sight, and
yeah,
you do actually
literally,
do that
literally
as part
losing
of,
sight.
the process. And you've talked about as well how in the performance you are strangely, it's cumbersome to wear that in a way that in some ways reflects the symptoms of chronic pain, but it's cumbersome, but there's actually also something strangely anchoring at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, also on a purely social basis, it is a dream.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't have to look at anyone, you don't have to listen to anyone. It's just perfect.
Sounds
for
like
an
a good
opening,
time.
like. I mean, I guess it's always been a thing in my practice. For the longest time, I've had the instinct to make masks, which is what a lot of people do, to like cover your face. And I always was fighting the fact that for some reason, I never made eye holes. And I was like making videos. I never thought of myself as a performance artist for years. I was like, no, I could never. I could never. And in my videos, I'd be like getting people to direct me and shout where stuff was. So this was embracing the true nature of these heads, I think. The fact that they are unwieldy and unseen as well. And it's a very literal exploration of blind productivity. So I was blindly drawing and putting them up. I mean, this small room as well is very much informed by this idea of degradation, which I was talking about, experiencing bodily degradation over my life with my arthritis and economic degradation. So these characters start to lose structure, start to become much messier. They're actually mostly blindly drawn, kind of mirroring flare-ups in different parts of the body, and an internal and external relationship.
I suppose like that leads me then to, as someone who lives with illness, what do you find is, I don't actually think this question is so obvious in terms of its answer, but your relationship to futurity, to how you make a future for yourself. How do you experience the idea of the future, or how do you remake your image of the future in lieu of a template, in terms of like the potential oblivion and degradation that you see before you? How do you, in the face of that?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the commonality of being an artist and having common pain is the future is just terrifying, right?
Yeah.
And it comes with this instability. It's something I don't really do. It's not what I recommend people do, but I just try not to think about it.
I never thought about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so we could start taking questions.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Do we have
anybody
any
has
questions from the audience?
You spoke a bit about how the mask sort of helps kind of separate yourself from the audience and maybe alleviate some of the anxiety of performance and the vulnerability. Do you think it's something you're conscious of now in future projects to keep that as a through line, or do you think it all about like exposing yourself almost as in the face and kind of how that would affect your approach and your confidence, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that the mask does as well is it creates a persona for me to inhabit, whereas it's like almost a way of drawing a different character and being able to occupy that. Whereas I think if I have my own face uncovered, it'll just feel like me, Finn Nichol, doing really weird stuff. So I think that the mask is like this mask and future and past masks is the way I work it. It's almost like creating this life form, inhabiting it, and then finding out how it interacts with the world. I mean, I have no idea how different projects will go, but right now the instinct is still to cover my head. Maybe that is hiding in a way. Maybe part of it is a confidence thing, but I also think it's just, I do find it more interesting.
You said point that they're like kind of spirits. A lot of your characters and a lot of the things that you embody.
Yeah.
They kind of show up as, I don't know, the spirits. You're kind of.
Yeah, I think what I said before was they were spirits of neoliberal Ireland. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of the last year or two, the works that I've made and characters I've created have existed in that space. So I guess they're kind of like expressions of some aspects of society. And I suppose spirits is always this term we think of as being very ancient. So it's kind of interesting to think about bringing that into a more contemporary context.
Mm-hmm. Almost like archetypes?
Yeah.
And also like anciency, like something that has lasted and persisted through time.
I mean, I think it's also like how we hang meaning on things, and this idea that our history has history, and that what we consider ancient, they considered other people ancient. Like how I used to think of dolmens and such as like ancient Celtic sites, but to the Celts, they were made by ancient people who belonged to deep history. So maybe with the idea of spirits, you're kind of stratifying layers of history, culture, and meaning, maybe to create something new, or maybe just to comment on what already exists. Any other questions or observations?
One more thing I'll say in terms of, or ask about, in terms of kind of expanding on that, enacting archetypes really comes back to this idea of the hieroglyphic, really, which is a way of like flattening the figure, which is also like potentially like a means of control.
Yeah.
It makes me think of John Zerzan, this anarcho-primitivist, who he argued basically that civilization was sort of the beginning of the problem, beginning with agriculture and the inception of ritual. And in rituals is the beginning of symbolic thought, as in, I play a role, you play a role, and thereby there's a mediation between you and me. And already I'm not thinking of you as another human being. I'm thinking of you through the lens of, well, effectively, an archetype. Would you say you have particular archetypes that you refer to, whether in your practice or your personal life? And particularly in relation to illness, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really something that I necessarily research, to be honest, the archetypes. I think that in terms of like thinking of these characters as hieroglyphic, it's like one word expressed 3,000 ways. It is, you start, when you're drawing them, you just start to become very aware of minor differences of hands moving this way or that way, and ascribing meaning or non-meaning to that. Also, they started to look quite like corporate Memphis artworks. Which
yes, actually.
So corporate Memphis is the name of the kind of tech fascist artwork that you see. Like Google and not so much Facebook, but all those like tech companies with a super flat style, where it's designed to almost resist meaning and to fit in anywhere and be the least offensive art style possible. Funnily enough, some of these started to look a bit like that to me. It could also be that I was looking at them too long. But I think it's that flatness.
But they're all resisting the flatness. They're all very much like...
Yeah, aren't we all, you know?
Yeah. There you have it.
I bet you put some of them crying.
Again, the tears, I think, well, you know, there's a few thoughts I had around that. It just seemed like the right thing to do when I did it.
To cry.
And then I thought, yeah. These characters really, it reminded me a lot of when I had my first big flare-up with my arthritis. I didn't really know if I'd be able to like walk again properly. And I remember looking at my feed on Facebook, or Instagram, I think it was at that point, and it was just filled with people like running and dancing and exercising and feeling like such a sense of being divorced from this world of activity, and also feeling intensely jealous of them and thinking I'm never going to take that for granted again. And now when I'm not in a flare-up, boy oh boy do I take that for granted.
So something I'll say very quickly is what's funny about health is that weirdly health is ignorance.
Yeah.
Health is the ability to be fluent and ignorant. I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah.
And we come back to your recommendation. Try not to think about it.
Try not to think about it. Yeah, I think it's also, the thing about pain is you can kind of remember metaphors around pain. You can remember descriptions of pain, but you can't recall the sensation. Like we both have migraines as well, and I have like very specific images with my migraines. One is like that someone's like scrubbing my brain with a rough sponge. Ooh. And at the time I feel like, yeah, that's definitely what this feels like, but you can't really recall that. So, and again, to bring it back to COVID, as things always come back to, I think that's, again, coming back to how we're managing to take everything for granted when we said we would never take it for granted ever again, because you can't really like psychically relive something 100% in that way. The pain becomes abstract and starts to feel very dangerously close to fiction once it's behind you.
Any more questions?
Looking around that you mentioned coming from an animation background, I'm looking at this and thinking nightmare. But like one of the common injuries with repetitive animating is repetitive strain injury and like back pain and getting a hunch and like knowing wearing that head that you're blind but you're also on the floor and that's causing its own pain. And almost causing pain to describe the pain to others.
Yeah.
Are you doing it as a sense of like trying to give yourself space to know what the pain is and like describe it and live through it, and when you're not in that sense of, as also a migrant sufferer, when you're in it you don't know how to feel it, but then when you're out of it you have to recontextualize it to get to explain it in a medical sense. Or are you doing it to, I know you probably thought of, like, are you doing this to give yourself space for like this is what it is, and then if you have the control of causing that pain, in an art sense, is it like more lifting? Like,
Maybe there's something about like having people witness it, you know, like having it be legitimized by that, because it's flare-up based. It really feels like you're lying about it whenever it's not active. Same like with migraines, you know. You start to gaslight yourself a bit and go, oh, maybe I am lying. So maybe it's about creating, almost intentionally triggering it to have people see it as a way of saying, oh yeah, this exists. Almost honoring it in a strange way. But yeah, I think as well, it's kind of almost like an economic metaphor as well, you know, like.
if I can contextualize it.
Geez, yeah.
But also pain that you can control is very different to pain that you
It's
can't
true,
control.
yeah, because it's pretty that's what's not great about flare-ups, is they come at very inconvenient times. But yeah, I think it's kind of an emotional reality, which even if people don't have chronic pain, they experience, well, everyone experiences pain, but also just the emotion of it. I'm hoping that people can take something from that or feel understood by it in some way.
I think you've managed very successfully to represent that.
Thank you.
Right, thank you all so much for coming out this evening, and congratulations to Finn. Thank you for being so generous with yourself and with work. Thank you to Pallas for having us here, and yeah, congratulations.